project today. I call it the cheetah plate, or you can call it the easy plate. We are going to roll the slab and then take it through the wheel, and then I will show you how to flip the edge to turn it into flat base, turn it into a plate. Okay, a plate, something like this. Okay, a plate. And I already roll my slab here, and make sure that depending on the size of the plate, remember when you place your clay on the slab roller, make sure it is wide enough. Okay, it's wide enough. All right. Here. This one is about a little bit more. I would say almost 3/8 of inch. It could be a little bit thinner, could be a little bit thicker, depending on how much work you want to work on the edge. And yeah, that I place on the black top on our slab roller here. And also, if you want to trim the foot, mostly you don't because you don't have experience on the wheel. But if you want to trim like this one, I trim the foot a little bit. See that I trim the foot? Then you might want to roll your slab slightly thicker, maybe I would say half an inch. So you have a little room for you to trim the foot. Okay. But if you don't want to trim or you don't have any experience on trimming part, you can roll your slab slightly thinner, slightly thinner. Just make it flat and make the base flat.
Are you going to demo how to trim?
You cannot trim it today because you need to wait till it gets at the stage we call beta hard stage. Then you flip over and trim. Okay. If you want to see the trim, I can do it next week. But normally for the trimming, you have to learn how to throw on the wheel first. Okay. So it's a little bit complicated. So my suggestion for the MPO class, you don't need to trim. Just leave it like the flat bottom. Okay. Right now, I want to remove the texture from the canvas. Okay, and I show you how to do that using the metal rib to do that. And also, like our very first project, since the pattern, the plate is very flat piece, and you don't want the piece to warp, especially when you have very flat piece. And what you do, remember what we did? Put it on the foam, right? And then you compress it. So you release the tension of the slab while you are stretching it through the slab roller. So use a very flat piece of board to compress it. And that is our secret of keeping the piece very flat. And here, and the reason why we have a piece of paper is that when we compress it, we don't want the clay to stick on the compressing bowl. So this is kind of like insulation to prevent the clay sticking on here. Okay, right? Push it. If you are not strong enough, put it on the floor and step on it. Okay? If you are strong enough, you can do that, right? You can jump on it, right? So that's what. Get at the table a little bit lower will be easier, okay? For you to, if you don't want to put it on the floor.
Stand on the chair.
Or stand on the chair, yeah, right? So that's the secret of keeping the piece flat.
Say the tension was not released enough. When are you going to see the wobble?
The warp is happening usually after drying stage. When it dry, you see the piece is kind of pop it up, or after the second fire, that glaze fire, it come up too. Okay. So those are the two stages you will see that if you're not compressing or you're not compressing enough. Okay. All right, and then now we are going to transfer the piece onto this. Okay. This is that we call back PAAC. Usually you throw it on a wheel, and after you're done with the piece, especially when the piece is very flat or very huge, you are not going to pick it up easily. So you throw it on the bed and then you pick up your bed and you can transfer it. Okay. So this is called back. And we have a whole bunch of them here. under the rack. Yeah, under the rack, you can choose from.
Has to be this material.
It's come with different material, but you want to find the ones that are very flat. Okay, find the flat one. This is fairly new, so they stay flat. But after years of use, they might warp. Especially when we have those made up from we call MDF board. This board are very easy to work because you see that this part here is so wet. And people dip it in the water to wash it, so it works when it dries. So this kind of a bowl, we have a whole bunch of them. I think we toss them away already. Yeah, and these are fairly new, but sometimes people use a heat gun. You see that? We don't want a heat gun. No heat gun. It says right here. If you have heat gun, it works because this is made out of plastic. Okay. And here I actually have my own back. Okay, this is under my name. Okay, I designed it. It's very strong material. So I'm going to use mine to do the demonstration. And before I do that, you can sign your name now, right? Sign the name. And in case you are wondering what kind of material is this is called fiberglass reinforced plastic. It's very strong. See that? You can even bend it. I can step on it without making it work. Okay, this is how strong this is. Right, so now I am flip it over to find the maximum of the area. And flip it over. Right. So I have my hand signed on the wrong side, so I remove it. Right. Okay, so that's how you transfer it. Okay, very easy. Just flip it over. You have an extra acrylic coming up. We could do it later. Okay, we could adjust it later. So let's go to the wheel. You already have experience on the wheel.
Very.
Okay, that's good. So almost half of it. Okay. So this wheel, it's a pretty standard. And there are two pins here, so you want to line up the two holes here for the pins. And also, usually, you want to use this. It's called a bed gripper. You can put it on here because people are worried about that. Some of the bed have been used for years. The hole is becoming too big, and when you're putting your pieces on, the hole it's kind of loose, and your bed is shifting, it's moving. So that's why we put the bed, we call bed gripper or bed mat. Okay. Those are the name of it. And here you want to make sure that you find the right spot for the pinholes. It's slightly hard to get the hole to get in there because you won't be able to see it. And for the orange one too, right? Orange one, that is, you won't be able to see it. So, okay, so that's good, and probably chop it off for now. So when you spin the wheel, it doesn't hit your splash pan. Right? And for easier to work on here, usually I work on my right hand side. For you to work easier on here, you could probably remove your splash pan and just pull it out so that splash pan is not in the way when you are trying to work on the side here. But now, before I start it, I want to make sure that my piece of slab is fairly circle. So first I will draw my initial guideline. Okay, still not enough, so I will go a little bit further. Okay, so that's good. And make sure when you're cutting, you want to hold your tool very steady on the same spot all the time. Okay, so you chop it into a perfect circle. And if you wanted to, like my sample, if you wanted, you could put some of the texture. This one. And if you want the texture to be wider, you can roll it slightly wider here. So let's make a mark here. Right. And I will start with the center. Roll it. Roll it. Right. Here. Right. So I put the texture in the center. The reason why I don't do it on the rim is that if I'm using the roller, the rim is it's not going to be very smooth, and when you try to lift it, your hand is going to bump into it, and that way your rim is not going to be nice looking. So that's why you want your composition in the center. Right in the center. All right, and then now you want to do is get a knife. If you have a basic, usually you have a knife. A knife you could go underneath and then kind of go and push the knife in, or you can use this tool too, right? And just slightly this is a little bit wedge here, so you can go underneath and slightly pushing it up. So when you're pushing up, make sure go slowly. Okay, go slowly. So go slowly, right? And you see that now my knife is inserted in there, right? So that's good. And then I'm putting my hand here while the wheel is spinning. I'm slightly push up my knife. You see that how slow I'm moving, right? You see that? I can let go now. You see that? You already flipped it, right? If you want to flip it higher, you could use a sponge on the edge. On the edge. Now we already have it up, so the same thing here. Just put the finger there and use a sponge to squeeze it slowly. Make sure let the clay a little bit of a time to respond to the pressure. So you have to do this slowly, right? But in the meantime, you want to have a finger inside to support it. See that? And you bump it up and move it up. Okay, so you gotta easy
So
for
your
you.
finger also move to the edge.
Yeah, push that if you wanted to. Okay, if you wanted to, you can change it because now I'm making it into this shape, right? But if you want it, or you are very good at wheel throwing, actually you could change your shape, right? See that my finger is moving down, and you can bend it wider. Okay, you can bend it wider. So that is how you are working using the inside finger and outside sponge. Now I'm going to move it further higher. Okay, so I could start to push more from the edge. And make sure you have to do this slowly, right? Slowly, let the clay respond.
Are you controlling the speed with your foot?
Yes. Yeah. By the way, if you are new with the wheel, the controller is like you driving a car here. Okay, push your foot on the pedal to control the speed. Okay. The further we push, the faster this wheel spinning. Okay. See that? Right. Okay, you control it. Right, on. Keep on pushing it. And if you squeeze a little harder, actually you can make your rim slightly thinner. Okay, slightly thinner. So your both hand, your both finger, your inside finger and outside sponge, you push it, you can actually make the rim slightly thinner. Okay, so that's how you control the rim. And I use a sponge to compress it here. On the very final stage, usually I would use a little. This is the same material as the back gripper, the same material. We use that. We call that the chamois to press down here on the rim.
That's to smooth it out.
To smooth the, you see that? Smooth the rim. If you want the rim to be thinner, you can actually squeeze it. See that I'm using my both finger and squeeze it. See the rim is thinner. That it's very fun project to do. And even you don't have any experience, if you follow my step, you should be able to make an easy and quick plate this way. Okay.
My problem, Shin, is I can't center that plate, so when it's spinning, it's not even.
You cannot center the plate.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
You have to center the plate. You just cut it
It's
into
already
the
centered.
perfect circle.
Yeah, it's already centered.
You cut the
If
circle
you hold
first.
your pin tool, then it just.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
You don't have to center
You don't have to center anything. When you cut your plate, you cut your slab, it's already nice, perfect circle. It's already in the center. Unless you didn't cut it a very perfect circle. Okay, you have to cut. You gotta be able to cut perfect circle, because when you hold your needle there, right, you don't move it. You just hold it in the same position and just push down. You can cut the perfect circle. If not,
And will you need to trim this?
that's my original. I told you that if you want to trim it, roll your slab a little bit thicker, so
Okay.
give you a little bit of room for you to trim. But for people who don't have any experience on the wheel, roll your slab slightly thinner. I would say 1/4 inch should be good. And you don't need to trim. We don't have to trim. Yeah, you don't have to trim.
What's the trimming for?
Trimming for is that you make the foot a little bit thinner, a little bit nicer. And some people do like to see the foot. Usually when you watching the ceramic objects, most of them have a little foot. This is we call foot rim. If you want to trim this foot rim, make sure you have enough clay for you to work on it. Otherwise, just keep it flat is fine too. Especially you don't have any experience for trimming. Just make that make it thinner. That's all.
So like if you
The
trim
trimming
it,
is a whole thing, yeah.
trim, if you want to trim it a 1/4,
I say a 1/2 inch at least.
If you want to
If you
trim.
want-
If you want to trim. If you don't want to trim, between 3/8 to 1/4 inch, that's the thickness. Okay. If you want to make wider, larger pieces, slightly increase the thickness. Smaller pieces, decrease the thickness. Okay. And when you are making on the smaller pieces, usually you see that I didn't put any water at all. My clay is kind of get the friction there, so it's not shifting. But when you are making smaller one, like small plate, the weight is not gonna hold it. So when you push, you might push it away. So my suggestion, if you're making smaller one, add a little bit water in the center and push down. So use the water to stick your plate down. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Use the water when you're making smaller one. For the large one like this, it's fine. Okay, that the weight of the clay is gonna hold it in position. But if you're making smaller one, add a little bit water. Okay, and that's on the bottom and in the center. Yeah, in the center.
So you would leave it on the bat until
I will
it's
leave it on the
ready?
bed and until it's getting leather hard stage, or even if you are not trimming it, you can wait till it gets at the bone dry and just remove it. Okay. It will separate by itself because you don't have a lot of pressure there. So once the piece dry, it's easy. It will just separate by itself. Not a problem.
And when you do smaller plates, do you ever run into problems around the screws, the holes in the bat?
Actually, I'm running to the screw. So when you insert your knife, make sure it's slightly, once you go in, slightly away from the two pinholes, because sometimes you trip,
Yeah. that
then
happens
you're
to
gonna
me.
ruin the edge.
Yeah.
Right, you ruin the edge.
Yeah.
So just slightly away from it, lift it. Okay? Once you go in there, slightly lift it, so you are not bumping into the 2 pinholes there. For that plate, for that bat, the orange one, they don't have pinholes, so
Yeah, that's
you will be fine. Okay, you will be fine.